Welcome to Monkeys Unfiltered, the podcast where chaos meets conversation, and the unexpected is always on the menu. Join hosts Leanne, Jason, and Hayden as they swing through life's absurd, hilarious, and thought-provoking moments. No topic is too wild, no opinion is too untamed. Get ready for unfiltered banter, laughs, and a barrel of fun. This is Monkeys Unfiltered.
Today in Monkeyland, we find ourselves peeking behind the curtains of Oz. As Mama Monkey, who thought fairy tales were just for books, until her life suddenly took a dramatic turn at a traffic light. A routine day was shattered by a sudden accident when she was hit by a semi-truck. Little did she know how her life would change forever. So buckle up, listeners, because today, Pappa Monkey, my amazing husband, Dr. Don Lowery, chiropractor extraordinaire, joins us to share his special take on life with the monkeys. Welcome to this episode of Monkeys Unfiltered, and welcome to my faithfuls, youngest monkey, middle monkey, and to you, Pappa Monkey. How is everybody?
Hey, forget about it. I'm walking here.
I'm walking here.
Hello, I'm good.
Wow.
Straight to business.
That was such a formal hello, I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, can we just cut the nonsense
Right.
real quick?
I'm sorry. I thought this was a serious podcast.
I'm here to be interviewed. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
If you guys could shut up for a minute.
All right. I have important stuff to say.
I thought I was getting beer.
Feel free to have a couple. You'll be more entertaining, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, no, he doesn't need a
Wow.
few to be entertaining. Trust me.
Really?
He is rather entertaining all on his own. So welcome to the show, Pappa Monkey. You are officially a monkey now.
Well, thank you for having me. I've listened to you guys while I work out.
Hey, that's
Oh,
what we like
wow.
to hear.
Dope.
People
Yeah.
around us actually liking what we do.
Somebody's listening anyway.
Right.
I do. I try to listen to it every week. So,
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. So
and you have improved as you've gone along. So, it has been a work in progress, and you become more
Thank you for
polished.
that.
So, I would definitely have to tell you that.
thank you for that. Thank you for that. So normally, those few listeners that we do have know that we usually cut up, crack some jokes, play some games, tell some funny stories. But a couple weeks ago, we had Hayden's wife, Cheyenne, on, and we figured we would let you guys get to know a little bit more of the monkey family and have Don on today. Just a little background for Don and I. I don't know, Don, how long have we been married?
Aren't you supposed to know that?
A little over 2 years.
I can't remember. Do you remember?
Right.
A little over 2 years.
I'm sorry?
I mean, technically, he is correct.
A little over how many years?
3 years.
Bro, you got married on a year where it's incredibly easy to remember
Hard
how
to
long
not
you've
know
been
how
married.
long you've been married. So we're coming up on our 4-year wedding anniversary.
Right.
Which is over
Married
2
in
years.
2020.
That is over 2 years.
Yeah, that's why I said he's technically right.
He is technically right. Well, I'll cut him some slack. But I mean, I feel like we've been together for 400 years. So,
Yeah. Well, he also looks like a sleepy boy, so.
yeah, well, he always looks like a sleepy boy. He's Italian. And as I alluded to in the intro, Don and I met after one of the worst days of my life. I was in 2016 rear-ended. I don't know that I would even say rear-ended. I was run the smack slap over
right.
by a semi-tractor trailer sitting at a red light. The truck was in an area that he should not have been and attempted to make a right-hand turn out of the left-hand lane and went right over the top of me. And Don and I's paths crossed, and that was that. He couldn't get rid of me. He tried. He tried desperately.
So, you know what's funny is this was when you guys like had just started dating or like were like being flirty or whatever. And so, no, I think you guys are dating. So, Mom, I told you a story. I was mad like at my boss at one time because he was kind of bragging about how he's like, oh, did you guys see that rep that just came in? Like, she was like a representative for like the elevator company or whatever. And he's like, did you guys see her? And we're all just like, yeah, She's just a person, you know. She was a pretty woman. And he goes, yeah, I got her number. We're going out. I'm like, cool, dude.
Good for
and so
you, man.
I called you and I was like, can you believe the nerve of this guy, like trying to hook up with somebody he's professionally like in a
Right, who
relationship
cares?
with, or like has a professional relationship with, and you're just like,
Well, okay. Right. Because I know when I say, because when people ask us how we met and I tell the story, until you hear the whole story, if you just get the synopsis, it sounds kind of cringy, but it wasn't that way at all. I will say he was not inappropriate.
Wait a
It
minute.
was
What
not
about?
that
What do you
way
mean
at all.
cringy?
But-
What's what is that? What does that mean, cringy?
yeah, let's explain yourself.
If I just say I went to the doctor and he hit on me and now we're married, that sounds kind
Wow.
of cringe, but that's not what happened. Well, that's not what happened. So
Well,
I'm,
how about we listen to him tell it?
yeah.
Oh,
How about you
yeah.
tell it?
He's just like, yeah, the pretty girl was walking in the office, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, done.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. She just kept coming back. I mean, it was like,
Like a boomerang.
She wouldn't leave me the
you
hell
know, I mean,
alone.
I put out a treatment plan and she followed it. I mean, like, what the hell?
Well, yeah, that'll get you to like, hey, this patient, like, yeah, they know what they're doing. They're actually listening to what I tell them. That's so rare.
I have to say, I did schedule her twice a week, and she was coming in 4 times a week. So I don't know.
Oh, shut up. That is not true. That is not true.
Well, she was not your typical patient too. So, she came in very well dressed, very professional,
and pretty.
and yeah, very pretty.
Whoa.
She was looking very hot. So,
Oh, good Lord.
I don't know. It was good interaction. I mean, it was just different, So it was. We talked about a lot of things that weren't related to her getting treated. So, and we're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're here to get worked on. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, let's cut this short so we can actually like consider why you're here.
Yeah. So this is how he did it, right? So we're talking, right? And he's like, you live around here? And I'm like, no, not really. I kind of, this was, they said this was the best office to come to. So I'm here. I said, it takes me about 20 minutes to get here, but I really come from work. And he's like, oh, where do you work? Where do you live? What do you do? What do you like to do for fun? And then comes the question, so when you go out, where do you go? And I'm like,
maybe we'll run into
I said
each other.
you did, but it took a good little while before we ran into each other.
Okay,
so.
speaking of running into each other like that, I know that y'all have some weird coincidences from like your
gosh.
earlier
Dude,
lives. Like I think
yeah.
I don't know
From your earlier lives.
I don't know if you mentioned it on the podcast, but I remember you recently talking about waiting in line for Springsteen concert
Yeah.
tickets, and then
Yeah.
he ended up being at the same concert.
How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
So it was when I was taking you guys last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was 1985, and we were talking, and he
It's
was
almost 40 years ago.
asking about our trip. Right. It is the 40-year anniversary of the Born in the USA album this year. And I was saying, yeah, the first time I saw Springsteen, and I said it was in Tallahassee. He's like, what? I was there too. But why am I telling the story?
That's not where I thought he was going. I thought Hayden was going to go, oh, you had some interesting. I thought he was going to say, oh, you used to go out with my ex-wife's husband.
What did you say?
I thought he was going there. I was like, all right, here we go. Let's start
In
it
high
there.
school.
Oh yeah. By
Well,
the
there's
way,
that.
I used
There's
to date,
that, too.
Yeah, let's hear
the
about that.
ex-wife, her husband, him and I used to date. I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. No, we were. What was
Yeah.
it wasn't Bruce Springsteen. It was something else.
It was Springsteen. It was Born in the
that's
USA.
right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Born in the USA. Springsteen.
That's right. Where was it at? Tallahassee.
Tallahassee.
I was in Tallahassee.
We can all observe Don's listening skills live on air.
Wow.
On there, right? Y'all
And
see what I put up
his
with
recall
everything?
skills.
So okay, we'll get Don started. Don, I think the monkeys want to hear about Mr. Anatomy Man.
Mr. Anatomy Man.
What is that?
Yeah, they want to hear about Mr. Smarty Anatomy
You want
Man.
to hear about when I got pulled over in Dallas and I ran over a skunk?
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's
Let's hear about
the
this.
PETA crowd is not going to like that, but yeah, yeah. I ran over. I was
They're not
so
here.
when I was going to school, graduate school in Dallas. I was working 3 different jobs: Schlotsky's Deli, I worked valet parking cars, and then I was working part-time working at a different restaurant. And one of my jobs, so when I was driving to valet park cars, it was at the South Fork Ranch where they actually filmed Dallas. So I was late. So as I'm driving there, I'm driving through a construction zone at night, and I hit a skunk. So I'm driving a Chevy Nova with Florida tags. He jumps across the road, so I creamed him. So he didn't suffer. Okay. It was like Pepe Le Pew. And just all I saw was him jump, and then it was like stink. Okay. So I creamed him. Yeah. So I hit him, and I'm like, oh, great. It comes up through the air, through the vents. And then
naturally,
I look up, and there I am. I'm getting pulled by a cop. So I'm like, okay, great. So I get pulled over.
Because he's speeding through the
Yeah,
construction
speeding through the construction zone, creamed a skunk, and I get pulled over. So the guy comes up, the cop comes up, and he stands behind the car. Since I have Florida tags, he gets in a very defensive posture. Doesn't want me to get out of the car. He wants me to hang my hands out of the car, like you see on cops. So I'm literally like I go to get out of the car, and he tells me to get back in, very aggressively. Got his hand on his gun, and I'm like, okay, fine. So he tells me hang my hands out, have my hands hanging out, and he's standing back behind me at an angle. So I have to turn my head and look back at him. So I told him, I said, officer, I'm not trying to be a smart, what, but you have me leaning back and rotating my head back, which is an extreme extension that cuts off the blood to my brain. And if I had if my carotid artery had blockage on the left side and you had me turn that way, it would cause me to pass out. So he said, okay, Mr. Smarty Anatomy Man. He didn't like that. So I'm like, all right, obviously. And he was like a burnt Barney Fife type. Okay. Like he just literally had that Southern accent.
That's really funny.
And I'm thinking, great. And I'm from the North. So it's like, he already hates me. So he says, I'm going to do a vehicle inspection check, which started with him kicking the bumper in the back of the car. So anyway, so he's working the way around my car to see if he can maybe make the lights go out. He goes around the front, and I tell him, I said, officer, and he told me, he said, just shut up. So I said, okay. And he kicks the bumper in the front, and the dead skunk falls off the car on him. So now he's like doing like a Mexican hat dance in front of my car, trying to get the skunk off his boots. So yeah, he's cussing me out. Anyway, so I wound up with a $350 ticket, and $350 ticket, which I'm surprised he didn't even arrest me. So I pull up to the event. I'm running late. Okay, it's like a overhanging fog. So literally, we're supposed to park like 6 blocks away and then walk up to the event. So I literally parked right up on the event because I'm running late. So I get out. My car's like still running because it's burning because the skunk most of it went through the radiator. So my car's overheating. And the smell of the skunk coming out is like smoke, and it's like settling just under the fog. So the smell. So I get out and I'm like, oh, great. So I just walk up and I just blend in like, I'm getting cars like I've been there. And about 10, 15 minutes into it, they came out of the event and they wanted to know, they said, can you please find the car that smells like it's a burning skunk and move it? And so anyway, so I wound up making what I got for the ticket that night. So,
hey, there you go.
So I found out that time that, anatomical education is probably not a good thing when you're pulled over by the police.
Yeah, Mr. Smarty Anatomy Man.
That's it.
Yeah, when you ran over a skunk and then got stopped by the cops, I was like, oh, he's about to get busted for marijuana possession.
Oh my God.
Well, no, he never even searched the car. He was so consumed with the outside of the car. He was trying to get the lights to go out so he could write me a ticket for, like a bad headlight, whatever. So.
Yeah. So I've seen videos where it's like, they call the canine unit, but then they like coax them to jump up. They'll like tap on the window or something. The dog will be like, eh. And so like they try to use that as proof. It's like the dog reacted. It's like, yeah, you made him.
Well, the dog would not be able to smell anything because the skunk was so overwhelming.
Dog's like, there's definitely skunk around here somewhere. I know that.
There's definitely yeah. I don't know if it's skunk weed or just skunk, right. But there's definitely skunk.
Anyway, so the tomato juice thing is actually true because it neutralizes the acids. So, I took it through the car wash like 3 times, but if you put tomato juice on anything has skunk on it, it will help to neutralize the skunk odor.
Really?
It's good to know.
I just want to say, I didn't know what the tomato juice thing was. So when you're like, the tomato juice thing is true, I'm like, sure, why not? I don't know what you're talking
about. If you ever run over a
great.
skunk, make sure you got some tomato juice in the glove compartment.
you
Can you pee on a jellyfish sting? Does that work?
I've heard it has.
I've always
never done
heard
it, but
conflicting, like it does and it doesn't. So I don't know what to believe.
figured Mr. Anatomy Man would know.
Right, exactly.
Mr. Smarty Anatomy Man would know whether you can pee on
sorry,
jellyfish.
that's only human
stings.
anatomy. Okay, my jellyfish anatomy is not up to par.
You know, I saw a meme recently that's like, "Babe, jellyfish stung me. Go pee on it." And so he literally runs over to the jellyfish and starts peeing on
And
it.
pees
Says,
on the
"Take
jellyfish."
this."
Yeah, I should have peed on the skunk.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have made the smell so much
Yeah.
better.
So much better. Hot pea skunk. Nice. Nice. All right. Well, we normally like to ask our guests a couple of questions. So, do either one of you guys have a question you want to start with?
I got one.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Don told us before we started recording, he's drinking a cup of coffee at 8:30 at night. And
He will fall
I know where
right
you're going
asleep.
with this.
I know, you like to drink a lot of coffee and stuff. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose to have coffee with?
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin.
Yes.
Why's that?
Really? That's an unusual answer. Why Ben
Well,
Franklin?
because I'm from Philly, so there's a lot of history with Philly. Ben Franklin had a very creative mind. I'd want to know, first of all, what is the deal with daylight savings time? What did he have to mess with that for?
Right.
You're to blame.
I'm a fan of this discussion happening.
And is there any truth to the kite with the key and the electricity? But no, he was a very interesting, very intelligent person. He was heavily involved in government, obviously, but he also had a scientific mind. So he was involved in a lot of different patents, and he was a very entertaining person. So people like to have him part of social events because he was so well spoken, and he got along with everybody.
I was going to say, I think he was the one that was like one of the first diplomats for the new country, like when America formed, and they sent him over to Europe because he just partied super well with people.
Yes,
pretty
that's
much.
true. Yes.
Yeah. He always brought the good skunky weed.
Well,
And when you look at the painting depictions of him, doesn't he just look like a wicked
Yeah.
rad partier? Like, no, he looks
well,
like
he also,
somebody's
but
grandpa.
he was smart because when he went over to England, he was able to see through what they were trying to do. So he was instrumental in saying, "Listen, this is the long-term deal. This is what they're looking for." He saw through, what the English were trying to do. So he was able to come back to the colonists and say, "Listen, this is the direction we're going." So he was a very smart individual. He could see behind the scenes and make his own assessments. And you figure at that time period, it was basic. Everything was basic, and he's introduced to a more intricate government and was able to see through how they were set up to realize that's not how he wanted the United States to move forward.
Yeah. Interesting. Like of all the people, I think he chose the one American who's like the most famous and not a president
Yeah,
from
I've
history.
heard that said about him before.
Because most people typically go with like a president. So, an interesting answer.
Jason, do you have a question?
Yeah. What's an insult you've received that you're proud of?
An
Mr.
insult?
Smarty Pants Anatomy Man.
Well, I can
Yeah,
tell you. Okay,
Yeah.
an insult from when I first got into practice. I was still doing my internship, and I was working at a practice where I had enough experience walking in the door that the doctor would decide he wanted to go play golf. So I was seeing 80% of the practice. He would come in maybe for a couple hours here or there. So I walked up to the front desk and I was looking at the schedule and I noticed there were times or numbers written next to the patients. So I looked at it and then I looked at the front desk girl and I said, "Are you timing me with patients?" And she said, "Yeah." She's like, "I'm Dr. Larry. I'm so sorry, but Dr. So-and-so wanted to make sure you weren't spending too much time with patients." And I was obviously upset. And I said, "Please get him on the phone for me because I want to talk to him." So she got him on the phone and I said, "I need you to come up here and I want to have a conversation with you." I said, "Because I don't appreciate the fact that you're having your staff time me with patients." So he came up and we had a discussion about it. And he decided to tell me that my problem was I tried to fix everyone. He thought that was a negative thing. He said, he said, "You're a great doctor. You're coming in with experience of some people that have 10 years, but he says your problem is you try to fix everybody. And so my response was, well, I don't know where along the line you lost that drive. I said, but that is always going to be my focus. And that is still my focus today. You know, I try to fix people, but I just thought that was interesting because it stuck with me because I'm thinking, wow, how involved did he get in the business aspect of working with people that he forgot to work about what it was really about?
Yeah. You lost sight of your Hippocratic oath and stuff.
Right. So I considered that an insult. To me, that was
Yeah.
probably the biggest one that stuck with me right out of the gate.
So, and just to clarify, like, what are your accolades? Like, you say you're a doctor. What are all the degrees that you
I'm
have?
not
and
really a
you're
doctor. I'm a
qualified for?
dentist.
He's a
I'm a
dentist.
dentist.
Well, okay. I have 2 bachelors of science. I have a bachelor of science in human anatomy. So we had to take the time. My first bachelor of science was in pre-med biology. And then when I went to graduate school, I was actually working on 3 different degrees. My second bachelor of science, which was in human anatomy, so I had to spend a certain amount of time in the dissection lab for cadavers, teaching, instructing, and learning. While I worked on my doctorate, and then I got into a specialized program. They had to have special permission because usually you had to be a doctor already. Was the PhD program for chiropractic neurology. So I was doing that on the weekends. So I was really pursuing 3 degrees at once. So I finished both bachelors of science, my doctorate, and then I got about 80% through my. It's called a diplomate, which is the equivalent of a PhD in chiropractic neurology. So when I first got out of school, I could get licensed in Georgia just by applying. So I was licensed in Georgia as a doctor while I was doing my internship in Florida. In Florida, you have to do your internship with hours. So that's when I was interning with the doctor I was telling you about previously. So you have to intern for 300 hours before you can actually take the state boards. And, you're a doctor when you graduate, but a licensed doctor in the state of Florida, Florida has a higher hurdle than any other state because of the elderly population.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, that's very
All
cool.
them degrees, hence the Mr. Smarty
Right,
Anatomy.
exactly. I couldn't even finish one degree.
I was about to say, I looked at her degree and turned the other way.
Right. So let's go in the other direction. I mean, I get why you would be proud of that insult, because you'd not fallen into that. So what's the best compliment you have ever received?
The best compliment is that I would say that when someone tells me thank you for my passion, thank you for my passion in my work, that it shows as far as on a professional level. But I think that's a big compliment that somebody's passionate about their work still, and to me that carries a lot of weight.
And what about in your personal life? Have you ever received a compliment in your personal life?
Personal life compliments. Well, yeah, I mean, I got a lot of different compliments. Most of them are from my wife. So, yes.
Good answer. Good answer.
Most of my compliments come from your wife.
I did not know he was going to say that.
No, you tend to point out a lot of things that I just take for granted,
Aw.
Whether I'm not, I try to be a very giving person. I'm not selfish. That I try to, I guess that in that sense that I'm generous in a lot of different ways, whether it's the way I act or just financially or whatever. That I'm just, a giving person. That I let people be who they want to be.
This is
Like
true.
the biggest thing that you told me, Leanne, as my wife, that I let her be who she wants to be. I don't ever put restraints.
That's true.
I thought that was nice. I want you to be who you are. I don't want you to ever feel like that you have to act a certain way, because I genuinely want you to be who you are, because that's who I fell in love with. So,
Aw.
there's no need for me to change that, right?
Aw.
Lovely.
Now I'm blushing.
Well, I want to be fantasy football champion. Can you let me be that?
So that requires some explanation. Hayden, do you want to explain why Don is like the nemesis?
Because he wins every year, other than not this past year, but the year before that. I think he won 2 in a row, and then I won one, and then he's won the next one. or something like that.
But he wins.
He wins,
Right. He
but
wins.
he changes his lineup every week. He drops everybody
He wins.
and picks up a whole new team.
He wins off the waiver wires. And last year, I think he missed 4 picks because he'd given away his draft picks, and he still won.
He gave away all of his early picks this year to Cheyenne.
Well, in my defense, I did have to get back my second round pick, so I was able to get my back-to-back pick.
Fair enough, but you also gave Cheyenne back-to-back picks.
Cheyenne is so due that if she does not win this year,
right.
So whatever trophy you pick out, she should be getting.
Everybody thought she was going to win last year because she came out hot and didn't lose.
She
hot.
Well, okay.
Okay, we're losing Jason.
Oh. No, he's here.
I'm over here just playing Words with Friends.
He's here.
He's
just not listening.
He checks out on the sports ball conversation.
I'm here physically, but
all right, hold on. So with the football, let me get this really fast, and then because I know Jason's not into this, but it was interesting because I didn't know anything about fantasy football, and Leanne invited me into their league because they had an opening, and she's like, come and play fantasy football with us, and I was like, I made fun of people who did that because I thought they were nerds. I was like, oh, they just want to play. They never could play football, so I saw them with their computers at the restaurants and stuff like that. So she's like, no, come and check it out. So I went, and you did it. We who was it? Lex's house, right? So there was however many people. Was there like 14, whatever?
Yeah.
So I go over and I think, okay, I'll figure it out. What's the big deal? So I'm picking players like, Deshaun Jackson because I like him, and I was getting my butt kicked. I had no idea how it worked.
Right.
And after so I lost the first 4 games.
He did that first year.
I lost the first 4, and I was losing to girls too. And I'm like, oh my god, that's even worse. So, well,
oh my gosh.
So I started researching it because I'm like, I don't like losing. So I started researching. I'm like, oh, I have all the wrong players. So I had to get rid of my whole team because I had all the wrong people. So then I started drafting.
You just kept that
and
strategy.
That's, right. So I stuck with that, and then I won all the games from that point on, and I actually won that league. That was the league before you, Hayden. So I won the first year, and then so they were a little bit pissed that the new guy came in and actually won.
Yeah, so, get out.
Yeah, they didn't like me. So
he can't come back.
So the theme is those who can't play fantasy.
Thanks.
Well, and it is true. Yeah. After you won
because
that year, that league broke up.
Because that was actually for money. How much was the pot?
It was like a couple $100.
Yeah. And they were angry because the new guy came in and won it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's so the way I play is not your normal way. And the part that it's not even the winning part. It's just the looking at players that nobody else sees and then kind of looking down the road and seeing that they're going to do well when they're not doing well is just kind of the drive for me. So it's just it's the analytical part of my brain that I like that I like. So, but I'll pick up a good player, but I'll also get rid of a good player. I just rotate through play. And Hayden picked up on that because he's like, because a couple of guys were, how smart is he about how to know? And he got rid of so-and-so. And he's like, that's the way he does it. Not every move I make is the perfect move, but I get rid of good players and bad players. But in the end, I probably have more better moves. The funny thing was and this will be the last thing we talk about with it, but when you go a season and you look at how many people you have drafted or how many waiver wire acquisitions you've picked up, I think the average was about 50. Mine was like 500.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Okay.
If you had a book written about you, what would the title be? But if the book was written by your worst enemy.
I picked shitty wives, except for my last one.
Thanks for the clarification.
What a qualifier.
Nice catch.
It would probably be you got to kiss a lot of frogs right before you find the first one.
That's really funny. So who would you say, and you can give multiples if you have them, but who would you say are the most influential people in your life? Minus your wife, because it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, because your wife is pretty damn influential.
Who are the influential people in my life?
The most influential people in your life.
I don't know that anybody's influential at this point in my life.
So like of all time, like ever, like who would you take, like who would you say like influenced you the most, or who do you Like, do you look up to anybody? Did you have a good example growing up?
Yeah, I mean, in certain ways, I had, I looked up to my dad to a certain point. He was a big influence. We were an Italian family, so we were very close. And like I got an Uncle Vinny. I got a Uncle bag of
stereotypical
Satchel of Richards. Yeah, his name is Uncle Dick. So like I grew up in Philly, so we go down to Center City, Philly, like with all the family members. I mean, half of them had white beaters on, gold chains, and it was like the scene from Sopranos. So that was my interaction with men, that I thought that's what people that were supposed to be. And I'll tell you, another one was my grandfather, my grandfather was a bartender. He looked like Luca Brasi from Godfather. Looks just like him. And his sole purpose in the course of the day was to drink all day. So how I didn't become a raging alcoholic, I don't know. But he was a fun guy. So he'd pick me up in his 67 Mustang, and first place we would go to the car wash, and the back window didn't work, so I'd have to scoot over so I didn't get wet. And then he would take me around to go to all the bars down in Philly to see all his friends, and then he would take me to some R and X-rated movies, and because he would go to sleep.
Wow.
Well, it is what it is. So he would take me to
what a great influence.
He would take me to go to the movie so he could sleep, and he'd say, "Wake me up when it was over." He wore a suit and a fedora without a job.
Yeah.
But wait a minute,
awesome.
Wait a minute. If you wanted a bag of airline peanuts, where'd you get those from?
Grandma's Gucci.
What?
What? You're gonna have to give context to that.
You knew that's where it was going, though.
What does that even mean?
Yeah. So my dad used to get a lot of, like, our silverware didn't match. Okay, because it was from.
Quantify what your dad did for a living.
Well, my dad was a very interesting person. He was a cop. That was his day job, but he also was an entrepreneur. So him and my uncle, they had a machine molding company that they did molding, plastic precision molding. He also had a laundromat that he did with his brothers. So he had two brothers like me. So he had a lot of side gigs, I guess you would say. And he was always busy doing something when he wasn't gambling. But yeah, and
fair enough.
Like there was one story he told me that, so he would sit down and I'd say, "Dad, tell me a story about your life," and he would tell me he had some very interesting stories. Like at the laundromat, in my neighborhood was in Philadelphia, was very rough. Like when you go up to the local store, there was an imprint of the pizza guy who got ran over by a car. Okay, and they had the police tape around, and in the tape was he was holding a pizza.
Ooh.
True story. So that stayed there for a while. My uncle Frank was running the laundromat, and this shopping center had a group of bikers that were just harassing the people consistently. So people were afraid to go there. And one day my uncle called my dad, and he's like, they're outside the store. They're harassing the people. He went out and said something to him. One of the patrons came in. So my uncle went out and talked to him, said, "You need to get out of the front." So they was throwing rocks through the window. So they said they were going to string them up. So he called my dad. And I remember my dad, he called some of his buddies at work. And they went up there. It was about 15 cops. And they went up there with baseball bats and everything else and drug them all around the back of the shopping center and worked them over, tuned them up.
Wow.
Yeah. And then got rid of their bikes. So, yeah, I mean, my dad was a very interesting person. So that's just one of many stories I could tell you that, like I said, it was kind of like living with the Sopranos.
Wow, yeah, it certainly sounds like it. Like, do you ever see that movie with Adam Sandler? Like,
Uncut Gems?
Dual
Uncut
salesman
Gems.
guy. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Uncut Gems.
Are you from the same part of Philly that Will Smith is from?
No.
In West Philadelphia.
West
born and
Philadelphia,
raised.
born and
Yeah,
raised.
he's West Philly. No, I was Northeast. I got another good story for you from my dad. Because you're asking people to influence my life. So my dad was a soccer coach. He was my soccer coach, and his influence was, you're going to go to school and get your college degree, and you're going to use the sports, to do it, because my family didn't have a lot of money. So originally it was supposed to be for a football kicker. That didn't work out. So he was the coach of the under 21 league, okay, which was the cutthroats, gang members of Philly. These were some rough guys.
Jeez.
Okay,
They just got out of prison.
No, these guys were. I mean, we're talking tough. Like the one guy, he was known for fighting 5 and 6 guys at a time. His name was Jimmy Vos, right? So My dad's
That
like,
sounds like a guy who can fight 5 people.
Unlike
at the same
Hayden,
time.
who can't take on 7 fourth
yes.
graders.
I mean, you can hit him in the head with 2x4. So he takes me up to practice, and I'm like, Dad, I really don't want to go to practice. He goes, come on, I got to break this team in, because they ran every other coach off. So they call my dad and they go, listen, these guys are hoodlums. We need you to take the team over. And he says, you're going to have to straighten him out with discipline like you do. And he goes, all right. So I knew what that meant. So, because I mean, he was our coach. So he goes up there, and I'm pulling all the stuff out of the cars, the cones, the drinks, and all that. And these guys are drinking on the field, right? They're in the middle. They got a little bonfire going. They're drinking. They're smoking dope. They're getting high. He pulls up and he's like, he's got the whistle. And he's like, blows the whistle. Okay. And he's like, I'm your new coach. He says, get rid of the beer. Throw that shit out, whatever. And he says, we're going to do some laps. And so Jimmy Vos gets up, big old dude. He was a big dude. He was bigger than my dad. And he came over and he's just like, he puts his finger in his chest and he goes, no. He says, I run this team. We're going to tell you what to do. You can go sit your whatever on the bench over there. And he says, we're going to do what we want to do. And he says, really? So I see him. And my dad used to have this leather blackjack. Okay.
Oh my
That
God.
it had a lead handle, or it has spring handle and a lead head. So he had it up his sleeve, and he used to wear this heavy leather jacket. So I saw it, and then I saw his hand drop. It came out, and bam, he hit him right between the eyes with it. Like, he's face to face with him. He hits him right between the eyes. This guy falls like a tree, just bam. So they're all looking at him going, oh shit. And he goes, who's next? Get your asses up and run. So he drags Jimmy Vos over to the bench, right? And he puts him near me, and he goes, let me know when he wakes up.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because I'm like 10 years old, and I'm like,
Dad's an effing rock star,
mind you, his
dude.
dad was a cop like in the 60s and 70s in Philly, right?
Yeah. In bad neighborhoods, yeah.
Right.
100%.
So anyway, so when Jimmy Vos finally woke up, he was like groggy, so he just stood over him and he said, now he said, you can go to jail, or he said, you can get your ass out there. And he's like, okay, coach. And he got up, and let me tell you what, there was never a problem with those guys after that. In fact, they would come banging on our door at 2:00 in the morning. Is Coach here? Can we talk? And my mom's like, those effing hoodlums are at the door. They want to talk to you.
Your freedom rider children are out here.
So I'm just going to tell you guys, and I've told Don this for probably 7 of our 8 years together. His mom and dad, who unfortunately are passed and I never had the opportunity to meet, are my most favorite people ever that I've never met, right? When he tells these stories, I'm like, Rita and Don Lowery are like my people, right? Like, I totally relate to them.
So wait a minute. Your dad's name was Don Larry, so you're the second?
Yes.
Are you junior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, when people would call the house, they would say, my mom would be like, oh, you want little Don or big Don?
Love it.
Yeah. And I get on the phone, they go, oh, hey, little Don. And I'm like, Mom, you're killing me.
Oh, man.
Wait, did you ever explain where the airplane peanuts came from? Or how they got in Grandma's coochie?
Oh, good Lord.
No, I did not.
Yeah, you might want to...
No, because that was... so part of the deal my dad used to do, he used to get all kind of special deals. Like, I would go with him sometimes, and, he'd go get a rental truck, and I'm like, Dad, we got this rental truck. Don't ask questions. Okay. So then another one backs up. They back up back to back, and they're offloading a refrigerator. They're offloading some stereo equipment. A couple cases of peanuts from the airline. So we had airline peanuts for like 3 years. So,
well, his grandma...
I thought Delta made peanuts. Okay, I didn't know Delta was airlines.
That's what Delta does. They make peanuts.
Well, his grandmother lived with him when they were kids, and she wore an apron, and she kept the peanuts in her pockets, and so she would just give them to the kids all the time out of her pockets. And so the little boy in the neighborhood just...
Delta doesn't make planes or peanuts. They murder people. It's just no, that's all a joke in Minecraft.
Well, Grandma used to keep all the peanuts in her. She wore like a smock or a muumuu. She'd keep them in the pockets. So she always had bags of peanuts in there. So we had a next door neighbor that had 3 sets of twins and one by itself under the age of 5. So 7 kids. Okay. And 2 of them were special needs. And the one would always, every time we saw my grandmother, he'd be like, Grandma, I want some peanuts. And so she would give him the peanuts so he would leave her alone. So she got to the point where she ran out of peanuts, right? So then my grandmother was very Italian, right? Her next door neighbor was Frankie Avalon. So that's where she grew up in South Philly. So she would literally grab her crotch, okay? And say, here's your peanuts right here. And my mom would be like, she'd be like, "Mom, don't do that." He's a kid. Okay. So she'd go, "Here are your peanuts right here." So
I can see that.
yeah. So yeah, she was like 4 foot tall, right? She was like a little tank. And so here comes Jimmy. He comes up from behind her, right? And he reaches up thinking there's a peanut factory up there. Because that's what she
No.
always said. So he grabbed her. Yeah. And oh yeah,
Oh
that was
my
weird.
God, I know it, right?
Dude.
Oh man.
This is
Right.
my
See, and
favorite
now
episode
y'all are
by
learning.
far.
I mean, we're 7-8 years into this, and you guys are learning
Yeah.
why he
Oh
is the way
my.
he is, right?
Dude, I love it.
Yeah. So grandma had a peanut vendor factory up
Oh
there. So
man.
Great.
Right,
Great.
exactly.
Mom, where
Grandma's
do peanuts
coochie.
come from? I'll show you.
Right
here.
yeah. I got your peanuts right here.
I remember when they first invented peanuts.
Hey, I didn't say it was a classy upbringing, but it was an upbringing.
You know what?
Exactly.
Yeah, here we are.
All right. So if you want to wrap us up, Mom, with the final
I
question.
knew you were getting ready to say that. Okay, since we're going to go in for the final question, I'm going to ask you one of my all-time favorites. What is the one question you wish we had asked you during this episode that we did not?
Wow. I guess what do I find special about everybody that is now part of my life that you've introduced me to?
Okay, and so your answer would be?
I don't know, just that Hayden has his specific things that makes him special. Jason, Dakota, he's special in a
special, all
certain
right.
way. Than Matthew. That you have. Well, each one of them is so different, but I think that they're all. You did a great job of raising your boys. And they're all strong, very strong-willed, smart men in their own right. So and they're all very cool to get along with and very accepting. And I could go have a beer with any of them or hang out, and that's a cool thing. So
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
I
Very
appreciate it.
nice.
Yeah, if
Love
somebody
that.
ever asked me that compliment question, that would be it. Would be the time Don told me he thought I was a good mom.
Oh,
I know, right? I know, very sweet.
hush feet.
All right.
You did all right.
Well, now that we know all about where peanuts come from and,
Dude.
I will never eat a peanut again.
I feel like I did all the talking. Did you guys ask all your questions?
This is
or-
why
No,
you come,
this
so
is
we
why
don't have
you
to
come. Like,
talk.
this is why we have. Yeah, I mean, thanks for
Oh,
being
okay.
here and doing this.
Yeah,
we know
no
you have a
problem.
very busy
Yeah,
schedule.
because we are recording at 9:00 at night because that's what fits in Papa Monkey's schedule.
Yeah.
But we love the Papa Monkey.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for having me. It was very interesting.
Maybe we'll have you back in the future. But
Okay.
so, Papa Monkey, we do this thing before we sign off every week called Monkey Mischief.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we always start out. So, Mama Monkey has an affection for dad jokes, as if you didn't know, because you are privy to all of them before I put them into the cycle. But we start out the week every Monday on our social Facebook page with the beginning of a stellar dad joke, and then we always finish it up on the Wednesday recording for you guys to enjoy as well. So if you happen to pass through Facebook this week, you would have seen me ask, why don't shrimp and lobsters share their food?
I don't know.
Because they're bottom feeders?
Because they're shellfish.
Because they're shellfish. Oh my God, we're 3 weeks in a
they're
row.
shellfish, dude. Love
3
it,
weeks
dude.
in a row.
Love
I
it.
love it. I love it.
Shellfish.
Well, okay, all right. So two electrons, or I'm sorry, two atoms walk into a bar, right? And one of them says to the other one, "I think I've lost an electron."
Are you sure?
He says, "I'm positive."
That's very cool. Double monkey mischief for you this week.
Yeah. So just like Papa Monkey, if you think that you have a joke that would be great for Monkey Mischief, you can visit us at monkeysunfiltered.com and submit your joke. If we choose to voice it on air, you will receive the most coolest ever Monkeys Unfiltered sticker. Right?
Tire cover.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you might want to post that on social media. Like Mama Monkey had this really cool Jeep tire cover made. It's got our logo on it. It's really awesome.
It is very cool.
It is very cool. Some creepy guy came to my door and took a picture of it the other day.
Well, I mean, it's exposure, creepy exposure, but whatever.
Yeah, he was trying to sell something, and I didn't get up to go see what he
It's
wanted.
a delivery guy, I thought.
Anyhow, yeah.
He thought you were a zookeeper.
I just
Cover
want to
is
tell you
cool.
your tire cover's cool.
Well, our thanks again to Papa Monkey for joining us this week. If you like what you heard and you want to hang out with us a little more, be sure you hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. Be sure you're visiting us on social media. That is where Monkey Mischief posts every week, and we want you to be part of the fun. Until next time, guys. Ciao.
Adios.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Like, I love the story you tell about when your mom got into it with Ida Mae.
Yeah. That's probably not really appropriate, but not that anything else is, man. Oh, anime was a hunchback that lived in our neighborhood. But go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah.